So welcome to Podcaster Bulletproof. Today's date is, I don't even remember, but we're back. I'm recently married now for about a week. Today's date is December 10th, 2018. One of my favorite guests is back, anonymous McSchmonomous. And I'm minimus McSchmonomous. And we talk about just some of the gay shit. No, I'm sorry, but we get into topics that it gets pretty. Oh man, because we get so randy about how passionate we are about, it just gets gay.
Just being able to talk about any subject without I don't know, without someone telling you have to stop, or it's like just with everything that's happening in the colleges and in pop culture, on TV. It's like pretty much everywhere. It's like if you say the wrong thing, it's like instant mob violence. You know what I mean? And if it's not necessarily violence, like if I was in downtown Austin and I was like, cool, man, yeah, screw Trump, then like that's it. And then it's like, cool, yeah, he's cool, he's one of us. It's like you'd literally have to have a certain sort of worldview, and if you don't have it, then you're just shunned.
You have to be anonymous McSchmonomous.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, literally, you have to. It's like what said. You have to write like a communist and not tell them what you actually think.
Yep. Yeah, we'll see.
Otherwise, you won't get your degree. It's just because they're the ones who are really intolerant. Like, whereas is the Christians, the maybe the libertarians, the Christians, the classical liberals, they're more like, they may disagree with you, but they also respect your right to, do something they think is stupid.
Well, and sometimes, I like to say something's getting, like, shit's getting gay. Like, I'm so gay. Or I'm acting like a about, that my guitar got a scratch on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't mean I disagree with or I have anything wrong, problems with anybody. That's just, our characters and our humor. I love racial humor. I love political humor. I love good religious jokes that are like gut wrenching, that make you, that just, jokes about Catholics, jokes about Jews.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, and we can actually say that because, we like in our family there is a lot of different races, and it's not like any of our cousins are, that cousin has a little bit of blood from that particular culture, so he's less. It's like, we never, no one ever thought that, and it's really dumb. So it's a sign of like endearment, and it's fun to sort of, pick a little bit at each other's cultures and enjoy, not taking each other so seriously. And it's kind of been turned into this thing where it's the whole, postmodernism and patriarchal structure where they blame everything on, one particular race, and it just causes an endless, it's just going to cause an explosion. It's not going to be good for anyone because, it just fuels the evil people, who can get just as obsessed with race on any side, and it's not good for the world. It's really stupid, and I don't know. It's really not fun. You can't have fun. You know what I mean?
Maybe that's the point. Is we are gonna have fun, and it's gonna, and the world's crazy, but as long as I have my freedom of speech, I'm gonna exercise it, and I'm not an evil person. I don't hate any certain race. I might disagree with certain people and their beliefs or their actions. And I might poke fun at that and talk trash like we're playing basketball on the ball court, and I'm trying to win, and,
right.
And you're trying to win too. So
The point is, you can't get violent. You can't be like, all right, you crossed the line, now I'm going to punch you in the face.
Yeah, you start keying my car and stuff, and start declaring war, then I'm game for that too. You want to take it to that level? Then I don't want to take it to that level because I'm trying to live my best life. But if you're going to take it to that level, then we have to take it to that level.
Well, I think that, and that's really the sickness in our culture, is it's not, it's like the biggest thing with all these hot topic issues like immigration, it's, you never hear the actual truth, and it's like, they go, oh, people who are against illegal immigration, they're not, they're racist, and it's so not true. It's really...
Here's my argument. I'm all for illegal immigration if I can go illegally south and you can come illegally north.
Right, which you can't. And this is a game of double standards. That's how it is the whole way across. It's like, imagine if I got a caravan together, with my blonde hair, blue eyed children and an American flag, and I headed towards the border, and I was like, F you, Mexico, I'm coming in and I want free shit. What would happen? What would happen, and it would not turn out good. And then they, people would go, see, that's what you get. And it's like, well, it's really stupid. Like, it's just a dumb game that they're playing. And it's really just, the idea is to destroy our culture and to bring in all these people. And instead of these people being like, wow, this is a great culture. This is so nice that I have, running water and really clean streets and like a nice air conditioner and, all these options, and I can just work a job right here and make a living, and this is really nice. Instead it convinces all those people that there's a whole group of people here who are racist and they hate you, which is not true. And then at the same time they try to, get all these, like we talked about earlier before the start of this podcast, just the alt-right movement, of these angry, white dudes who are, like, women are stupid, they're not as smart as men, and other races aren't as smart as white people invented everything, and it just creates this toxic combination on either side, and it's not good. And the worst part about it is that both sides make legitimate points. Like, there are a lot of black people who get shot by cops, and it's bullshit. Like, there's a guy who just got shot because he had a legal permit to carry, and he was trying to save people who, to get him away from the shooting, and some cop just runs up and he goes, put your hands up, and just blows the guy away. And
this was recent?
Yeah, he shot him in the back.
What city?
I don't know. I just recently heard about it, but there's been a couple recently, and it's the idea that you have a cop who doesn't even understand constitutional law. They don't understand, like, you can't just go up and shoot someone in the back because they have a gun. Well, he had a gun. It doesn't matter if he had a gun. What if he has a legal gun? If I'm in a mall and some psycho walks out with an AK-47, I'm going to get my girls on the ground, and then I'm going to pull out my gun, and I'm going to dump him. But, like, if a cop saw me do that, he should be like, we should be on the same team. He shouldn't be like, put your hands up! It's like they don't know... They've lost their sensitivity and morality.
Well, also,
and
their
their
young
sense of law. They're
young kids, and they're scared. They think someone's out there waiting in the parking lot, ready to shoot them. And many times there's people plotting to kill police. And I would be that dude. I would,
that's the other thing.
I wouldn't mean it, but chances are I'd pull the trigger too if I was a cop standing out there in the.
Well, and that's a statistic that's really unpopular, and I don't know what it is.
It's freaky
currently right now, but there's a lot of statistics where, black officers in a black community are more likely to pull the trigger than white officers, because a lot of white officers are scared. They don't want to be accused of being a racist.
That's true.
So there's all these different actual complex realities taking place, and then the media just gives you this really simple cookie cutter, well, the police are just doing their job, and then the other guy, the police are all racists, and it's like, dude, okay, this is ridiculous. This is what I've grown accustomed to it every day, to just wake up and hear utter BS from both sides of the what's going on, and then anybody who has different opinions, they just get deplatformed, or they get, there's a few people who are allowed to rise, but it's like there's certain topics that are just off the table, and it's really. It's just sad because, when we try to talk about these kind of things and we try to, learn and grow, there's always like a mob ready to just, hit you over the head with a bat and just be, shut your mouth, just shut up. No one wants to hear what you have to say. You want to get your head knocked off? It's just like, that's It's like the French Revolution. You know, they're killing nuns and priests and blaming everything on them. You know, it's the difference between the French Revolution and the American Revolution. It's just, it's just. It just worries me that it's in our culture because I feel like this is a communist time bomb. This is something they've been working on, for a long, long time. It's just like with the scandals in the church. Same thing. With the priests, the Bella Dodd scandal, testifying to Congress.
Does it all tie into like Agenda 21, or is that even a real thing? And
well, the thing about that, I think that is a real thing, and I think there's a lot of people who genuinely believe that. Like if you follow Darwinism and you follow, all of these philosophies to their inevitable conclusions, there's no moral reason to necessarily let certain people live or let certain people breed. From their perspective,
right? From a primitive,
but they think that they're really they really believe they're above everybody, and they're really smart, and that's why pride's the root of all evil, and that's why they're so stupid. They're fools in the eyes of God because they don't see that they're actually just riding the wave of this giant, momentous, culture of the West, and they're living off of it. They're feeding off of the technology and the structure and the stability. And then they're throwing caution to the wind, and we're the smartest, and we're the, we've been able to accumulate all the money, and all these people are stupid, and they're not as, their lives don't matter as much as ours, and they really, I think, are at a point where they think, it's okay to kill a lot of people if it's for a good cause, and that's what Hitler said.
Well, right,
it's
but here's the problem. Of course, that makes sense. I mean, of course, it's happened before, so of course it makes sense that it could happen again. The problem is that people they think it's insane. They think it's impossible. They can't comprehend it, even though they've seen it, they've heard about it in history. To them, like a true story from history, it's still almost like a fairy tale in a sense.
Well, yeah, and that is a weird thing about human nature. It shows you how varied everybody's perspective is. Like every person has their own little movie. Their little soap opera going on, and a lot of people are tuned out of it. Even in World War II, there were people who were like, it's not going to get that bad, it's not going to get that bad, we're going to stay. And then there were people who were like, no, we're leaving.
The preppers.
Yeah, the preppers were like, dude, we can smell blood, like, we're out of here.
That's
like,
how I feel.
You're going to leave your whole house? You're going to leave everything?
Shit,
dude.
I
don't even care, that's just a piece of property, I'm leaving, I'm going to America.
Dude, I need to get in that mindset.
Well, and a lot of people have been for a long time, and it's definitely good to be self-sufficient, and I think it's good to have a good at least a food supply, basic food supply, and have,
which none of us have.
That's true, but
like,
it's you can, for $75 or $100 you can buy the freeze-dried packs.
Right, but like if something happened right now,
bucket.
I could maybe eat for 24 hours before I start clunking skulls. You know what I mean?
I know. Yeah.
You can't even make it.
Well, and that's the thing, is that there's no reason for any of this to collapse or destabilize. But the problem is that these people who we were talking about, and they're really at the top, and that's why they laugh and say it's a conspiracy theory, but they're just Luciferian, which means you make yourself a god. And it's like right there in the Bible, and men made themselves as gods, and they acted as though they were gods, and they're, obviously they're not, but they think they are, and so. We're kind of at a point where they're causing calamities. They cause wars. They deliberately cause events. In the conspiracy side with like super weapons like HARP and things like that, where, if they wanted to cause, an earthquake or a tsunami, I mean, we don't actually know whether or not they could or they couldn't. I mean, technically it would appear that they could because they developed those kind of technologies for weapons. We just can't fathom the idea that people would use something against us, but that doesn't mean that human beings are like incapable of doing terrible things.
No, and the truth is stranger than fiction.
Yeah,
that's like my favorite quote. I don't know who wrote that quote, but I tell myself that like 1,000 times a day.
Yeah. And another good one is nothing under the sun is new.
Oh shit!
It's true, man. It's just the same old story.
And here's an interesting question. Let's say that like Agenda 21 and eugenics and these things are true. It's interesting if it is. Why haven't they convinced it yet?
Well, because there's your average Joe who's not necessarily a really good person, but definitely not a really bad person, and they kind of just think things are a certain way, and especially that's the issue they've had with America. Which
Maybe
is what
here's the
scares
answer.
me is it's when you have all these people who can arm themselves and they can communicate rapidly, and they can they stand for ideas, and they're idealistic and they're intelligent. They're really difficult to control, and you have a class of people who are not qualified to balance the world as it exists. So they are like, well, we're just going to remake the world in in the ideal way so that we can manage it and it all looks good. And of course, it's going to be like hell on earth, but not for them. Not for Kim Jong Un. He's loving life.
Right, like
he thinks he's doing a great job. He's protecting the people. And then pan over to the guy in the concentration camp like eating a worm. And it's the reality's brutal. And then you look at like our country, and it's like Trump's like, go Fefe, sitting on the toilet tweeting. And then, everyone, oh my gosh, I can't believe you said that, and then we're sitting here, in our private home studio, in our piece of property that, is owned, and like, you know what I mean? Like with all of this wealth around us and all of this technology, and we're like totally basking in freedom. And then, the person across the street, is putting on a vagina hat and saying they're oppressed, and it's just like, are you serious? Like, I honestly think they just need to be shamed like little children. Like the way you would tell a child, like, you're being ridiculous. It's time to grow up. Like, it's like you're insane. Like your argument is ridiculous. It's childish. It's not true. Like you think I'm wrong. I think you're wrong. But here's why I think that I'm absolutely right and you're absolutely wrong. And I'm sorry, but
it's too late. But for that, because then they just get violent.
Well, yeah, that's when they're like, you're a fascist, racist, homophobe, and they've never even read the history of fascism. They don't even know.
It's almost like this. It's at some point it's going to start getting violent from both sides, and it's the victors is going to boil down to what side do the police side with.
Well, right,
and who is the real there's an aggressor, and then there's like a defender, and like there's a defense requires violence, being violent to defend yourself. It requires being violent,
right. And the thing about the state is that the state is not, they're the one entity that gets to be aggressive and violent because it's supposedly in the name of keeping the peace and preserving justice, which is great if that's what they're actually doing. But the problem is you have a whole class of people who are like fundamentally delusional, self-absorbed, selfish, narcissistic, underdeveloped sociopaths. Like just like, I mean, I've met these people and worked with these people, and they literally will talk about the glory of communism, and they're living in Texas, and they're making really good money, and they're complaining about their rent going up a little, and then they're saying, oh, I wanted to move to San Francisco, but it's just so expensive. And I'm just like, and you don't put that together. You don't put two and two together. And then, if you disagree with them, they'll go, they'll chuckle at you and go, oh, you're not educated. And, it's like, I really wonder if you've read more books than I have, because I've read a lot of books, and I read them because I wanted to, and nobody was forcing me to read them. And I was craving the information, and I wanted to learn, and I wasn't just trying to fulfill a quota to, pass a test. And I'm a real thinking person, and I didn't want to go to the universities because I knew right off the bat I wouldn't do good because I couldn't be myself. And that's like the story of my life, Anytime I try to be myself, you know what I mean? It's like this social, you want to talk about oppression, and people would laugh and they'd go, oh, cisgender, white patriarchal male complaining about oppression. And it's, some of them, I argued with some of my coworkers about this, and we were talking about white privilege, and I said, so who invented the toilet? Who invented air conditioning? Who invented the internet? Who invented the smartphone? You know what I mean? Who invented, you could just keep going down the line. Who invented the assembly line and all the automobiles that we're buying at an affordable price? Who invented all of these things?
Right, well, good argument.
If it's all these white people who invented all of these things, then and you're enjoying the benefit of all those things, aren't you enjoying some white privilege too? Or is the theory really that all those people invented all those things just because they're racist and they just oppressed brown people? because it's like almost like an insecurity, because then the white people, the white racists, like the alt-right, will say, see, they'll, under their breath they'll be like, see what I mean, bro? Who invented all this shit? We did. They didn't invent anything. And look at them. They're less than us. And then I look at it and I'm like, you're both full of shit. It's the philosophy. It's not the color of your skin. It's not the melanin levels. It has nothing to do with that. It's values and it's your philosophy. If you embrace Judeo-Christian values and philosophy, you have a stable society. You have a healthy reproduction rate. You have equality. You don't have equality of outcome, but you do have a reasonable equality of opportunity, to where if you work hard, you can move up and you can pass it on to your children and they can move up. You know what I mean? Like, but it's a beautiful thing that we have, and it's being clouded by those two lies that I just said, that, the white racist being like, oh, I never seen a black man work a day in his life. And I'm like, really? That's it? That's your reason for really? You're gonna put up a Confederate flag because of that? Like, you're retarded.
Yeah.
Yeah. You are low IQ. I'm sorry.
Bruce has the best bit about that. He goes, "You ever see one of those white, like a redneck, and you know, you can tell. No, you can tell. You can always tell a racist redneck when you go. He's this big fat black guy. He goes, "Hey, good afternoon, sir. How you doing?" He goes, "Yeah." And just keeps walking. That's how you know he's racist.
Oh, but see, that's kind of racist in itself.
Well, it's hilarious, dude.
No, but
like I would do that to black people just because it's funny.
No, it is.
You know what I mean?
Well, and that's a funny thing, because there's two subcategories of people that don't get any representation right there in the mainstream, which is the black conservative, and then the hardcore, like, tobacco chewing conservative, who's like very independent and he reads the Bible and he like actually is not racist. Like, those two classes of people exist, and I've met both of them, and they're some of the coolest people I've met in my life, and they both complain about not being represented. And people, like one of my black friends I used to sing karaoke with a bunch, he was, like, we'd go into a bar and like we'd get stared at by like groups of white dudes and groups of black dudes, like, look at those guys hanging out together, like, it was so stupid. And he'd be like, oh man, he'd tell me about it. He'd be like, some of my brothers in my family, they'd say I'm like a, Uncle Tom, and I'm a white man's servant or whatever, because I like different kinds of styles of music. And he was like good at keyboard and stuff. And it was just funny because, like, the guy was totally cool and we totally got along, and we totally got it. And it was just really funny to both of us. Like, these people are so dumb. Like, we're having a great time. Like, we'd go to karaoke and he could sing like Robert Plant, and he'd do like Kashmir, and then I'd do like a Jim Morrison song, and we would just drink, and it was just like, this guy's awesome, and but I don't know. I just hope that young people are smart enough to look around and go, you know what, this is bullshit. This is crap. I don't believe any of this. I know lots of people, and they're not all racist.
We were at Target the other night, and now I'm getting older to the age where, like, I see all the younger kids in their 20s. I'm like from the outside looking in.
Right.
And now I look back at all these 20-year-olds walking around with their dates, and they're in Target hanging out, and some kids are over here and stuff. They're all fucking like brainwashed, man. They don't even they think we're different creatures, like
screen life.
They think the older generation, we're like these aliens, like they don't even speak the same language.
I know, and that's such a delusion.
They don't respect their teachers. They don't respect their parents. They're just out there like waiting for something to happen.
They're literally looking to. Some of them are literally like they're going into the bathroom. They're like, they open the door and they walk in and they, and they look down and they go, just because I have a penis doesn't mean I'm a man. And it's like, my parents assigned me this sex at birth, and it's like, you're staring at your own cock and balls, and you're peeing into the urinal.
Oh shit!
And you are blaming it on society that you have a cock and balls, as if it's society's fault that you just were born that way. Like, talk about born this way. Like, straight people have rights, regular people have rights too, and it's not because we're hateful. It's just kind of how we breed and keep the population going. It's nothing personal. It's just a natural way we've evolved. You know what I mean? It's like I listened to my wife's belly tonight. Put my ear right up there. The baby's just getting to the stage of where they develop hearing, And and I start talking and I start poking and prodding, and then I hear a noise, and this is something you can do when your wife's pregnant. It's like you can literally, especially as the baby gets bigger, you can interact with the baby, and it's just so incredible. It's so cool. It's so precious, and it's like scoffed. It's mocked. It's like under total attack. It's like it's totally disregarded, and the thing about it is it goes back to that Walmart point. Those kids think we're aliens, right? Everyone thinks they're an alien until they get pregnant and they have a baby, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, normally right now I would just sit there and like watch a show or like eat some food or drink some beer or whatever, but now I have to take care of this little person because they just shit themselves and it smells terrible and I have to clean up their shit. And that's why you hear about, every once in a while you hear about like one crazy parent, like a mother who couldn't handle it and she like strangled her own child and threw the baby in the trash or something. It's because some people are just not even equipped to handle it because they had neglectful childhoods themselves, and they can't even process it mentally. And that's the sad thing, is the disconnect. It's like we have a whole generation of people sacrificing their little unborn fetuses to Baphomet, and they don't even realize it. They don't even. I know so many people who don't have kids, and birth control doesn't work every time. You know what I mean? If you keep having sex for 10, 20 years, I mean, some people it works great. Some people it doesn't. And so that either results in a human being or no human being. And that's kind of where we're at. That's the zombie culture. And that, if you look at ancient pagan cultures, that's what they did. That's the little secret of, the Spaniards and the Aztecs and the Mayans and all of that stuff, Like, there's whole cultures of people who would sacrifice, like, little kids, like, every day. Like, rip out a child's beating heart and, like, I mean, really?
Eat it.
Really? Like, to please the gods? Are you sure?
If you're a soulless creature, dude, I'll eat anything. You know what I mean?
Well, right.
You look at what the cats do to each other, the dogs do to each other, rats eat them.
Right. And that's why we're not animals.
Well, right, but some people think that's why we are animals.
Well, exactly, and that's why that the truth, the actual truth, in my opinion, in the West's original opinion, the Judeo-Christian truth, of God and leading to Jesus Christ, the whole everything. It's very difficult. It's the only religion that tells you get to suffer, and the more you suffer and the better you suffer, the higher up you go in the system of saints and the system of people that are pleasing to God. The more you suffer for the right thing, the more it pleases God. Literally, like, the more you deny yourself what you want, your carnal pleasures, the less you behave like an animal, the more you please God. It's the only religion that is that forceful in that direction, in that way. And it just so happens that same religion produced the society that produced all of the technology that has uplifted the entire world out of poverty. And now we have people like the communists thinking that we're just as good as the West. We're better than the West. But they're copying our technology. We're not copying their technology. You know what I mean? They're the ones who have elevated their societies based on things that were not created by them. That, you know what I mean? They're taking the fruits off of the tree and they're denying the tree. And then now in our own culture, we're denying the same tree, and we're saying that the tree is it's literally like, Medusa, like, trying to cut down it's crazy. It's so twisted, but it's just, I used to be upset about it, but now I'm just seeing it as, this is just part of the plan. It's how it works,
Well, I've been on the fence, really, just really freaking out. Am I just going to live in this city and wait? And, and probably in my lifetime, this city, something's going to be going down in this modern society.
Right.
What, I mean, are the lights going to go out? Is oil going to go out?
Well, the truth is that, the people that go up north and go into the more obscure places where you have a more rural lifestyle, and you have, solar panels, and you have your own garden, and you have your own livestock, right? You have guns and ammunition to hunt and protect yourself. You're not going to even hardly be affected by it. It's everybody down in the center of the city who rely on everything. It's the millennials. There's going to be like, I guarantee you, there'll be like giant stadiums, and it'll be like, for millennials who don't have Wi-Fi, come here. And then they'll all, no, I can't contact anyone. You know, like I haven't checked Tinder in a week.
You know, that would be an incredible experiment to shut off Facebook for a week.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
I mean, imagine if someone could pull the switch on the internet for just a week.
Oh, I know. People would lose it, dude. It'd be like the purge. The people would be, because they're addicted to the internet the same way you're addicted to drugs. Like you've seen that computer, the German kid playing the tank game on the internet. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, I've seen all of that.
Los, and he's like smashing his keyboard and losing it because he's so like. I mean, obviously he's got a problem, but the point is that, you know, the internet. It's like if you just, it's like people who get deplatformed. It's like one day they say something and like millions of people are like high five, and then the next day it's like, you're deplatformed for hate speech, and then their whole life just like it changes everything.
It changed my life.
Well, it's why we need, you know, there needs to be a pirate radio. You know, there needs to be you know, Facebook needs to be done. The truth is that you know, Facebook should just be called Left Book. We should just have like Left Book and Right Book. You know, if you're it's just like they just came out with a conservative dating website, and if the man doesn't pay for the woman on the first date, she can report him.
You're kidding me.
It's so funny.
Is that a joke or is that for real? How is that not sexist?
It's great. It's beautiful. How is it sexist?
Well, according to the rest of the world,
but wait, what about all the? See, that's the thing. It's just like the pro-abortion debate or the anti-abortion debate. No one ever considers the opinion of the women who disagree. Like you're just oppressed. Really, like
that's a good point.
Like
Yeah,
Amy Coney Barrett. You know, the lady who should have been the Supreme Court, the new Supreme Court judge would have been just wonderful. Like, she's oppressed with her giant family. And her beautiful, gorgeous self, and her wonderful career, and her loving husband. Like, she's oppressed with her 7 kids or 8 kids or whatever it is, as opposed to like 7 cats. You know what I mean? Living in like a 2-bedroom apartment, you know, with tons of cats, you know, by yourself, maybe like one estranged child, you know. I've tried everything for him. He's on drugs now. It's not my fault. He wasn't, you know, he didn't grow up with a family, and I used to just black out drunk. You know, it's just sad, man. It's just really sad. But to those of us who understand, like, we're not fooled anymore. Like, it's not. It's kind of like what's happening in the Catholic Church. It's like we're not dumb. Like, we know what's going on, and the only reason that, you know, the stuff that's been happening has been able to happen is because we're just nice and we play by the rules. That's it. That's the only reason. You know what I mean? When you got like the guy who just got put in charge of like investigating the sex abuse claims is Blaze Supich. It's like putting the lead wolf in shepherd's clothing in charge of the sheep. Like, and okay, we'll see you tomorrow night. You know, put him in charge. Like, the amount of scandal, like 2 priests caught having oral sex, you know, and then he's like, well, they're not in my diocese anymore. And then, you know, there's some awesome priest who was a victim of sex abuse himself, found a rainbow flag in the, you know, back in the area near the altar, and he got, you know, wicked angry, which St. Thomas Aquinas says is actually charitable, to get angry at wickedness. And they had a ceremony and they burned the flag. And the flag was their property. It was purchased. And so, you know, Blaise, you know, this bishop or whatever he is, sends over, you know, 2 guys to strong arm the priest and take him down to the psych ward for a psychological evaluation, you know, to have his you know, most likely, you know, Freemasonic, atheist or agnostic, deist therapist be like, oh, I think this priest is disturbed in the head. He has homophobia. He has an irrational fear of homosexual people, the same way people have irrational fears of spiders, you know, like arachnophobia. He has homophobia. That's why he burned the flag, so he's no longer fit to be a priest. That's what's been happening, is that there's like a mafia in the church of gay people and secular people, and they hate the church, and they want to change it from the inside out. And every time there's a legit priest who tries to do the right thing, he gets canned. And then every time some guy does something like super twisted and sick, he gets like shuttled off to some other place. And you're like, how the hell did that happen? Who's okay with this? But then it's all secret. It's like putting a cross on an altar boy, a gold cross on an altar boy, to let other gay priests know, like, hey, if you want to molest this little boy and have, go have oral sex with the altar boy, you can do it. Like, it's so demonic. It's so twisted. It's so sick. I mean, it is like, it's like something a demon would do. It's so evil and wicked. So it's like, we know what's going on. We're not stupid. Like, Pope Francis may be like, oh, it's not good to breed like rabbits. Who am I to judge gay priests? It's like, well, 85% of the sex victims were abused by gay priests. So just by that alone, if you got rid of all of the priests who have homosexual inclinations, you would eliminate 85% of the sex victims. I'm pretty sure that, like, yeah, we should do that. I'm sorry. I mean,
it's a great point.
That's the thing is it's just like the immigration debate. Like on our infamous bachelor party weekend, I really tried to get the point across and nobody listened to me. The answer to the immigration debate is in the catechism. It's like a paragraph or two. It's so simple. It just says you're required to give asylum to people who, need help. Insofar as you can handle a certain amount at a certain time that's within reason, so you can maintain stability and the wholesomeness of your own nation.
Right.
And then likewise, immigrants are required to respect and obey the laws of the country they're going to, and to assimilate peaceably and responsibly, but at the same time without contradicting the Catholic faith. So there you go. It puts a responsibility on both sides, and it's the same thing that the Catholic Church says about homosexuality. We love homosexual people. Some people are born with, more likely to be attracted to people of the same sex. We love these people. We love all people. We love God's children. However, the Catholic teaching on sexuality is really specific, and everybody has to follow it. And however crazy you think that is, or however beautiful you think that is, the only people who get to engage in sexual activity are married couples, and they have to be open to having kids. So that means, like, all of the modern sexual things that millennials do, which is the equivalent in the Old Testament of, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but I think it's onanism, which is, spilling your seed in the wrong places other than where it's supposed to go. It's like a sacred thing, and that's how the Catholic Church has always looked at sex. And now you have a whole group of people who are saying that, like, well, if this gay couple lives together and they sodomize each other every night, they could still come to church and get communion. And it's like, I'm sorry, but, like, no, they can't. I mean, they can, but they're blaspheming the Eucharist.
That's crazy, bro. That's fucking nuts, man.
And they're going to get communion? And I'm sorry. It's like, if you believe what Jesus said, you have to believe what he said. It's not, you can't blame me or anyone else and say, you guys just hate gay people, or you guys are rigid or traditional.
Well, no, here's the problem: is they do go to communion, and there is no problem. There's no one stopping them.
Well, yeah, but St. Paul says you do it to your own damnation.
Well, okay, fine.
Okay,
but they don't care.
But see, the problem is the shepherds are the ones with the staves, and they're the ones with the anointed hands, and they have the power, and they have to do their job, and they're not doing their job. And the problem is that the only people in the laity who are trying to get them to do their job are being, like, targeted by everybody, including the institution itself. You know what I mean? Like it's like you got the Vatican praising a priest who's going around saying, like, homosexual unions are great, and he's saying he looks forward to the day when, a gay couple can kiss each other at the sign of peace in the middle of Mass. He said that. Father James Martin, he said that. Now he's got a free pass. Why? He can do anything he wants. He can speak. Some places have not let him speak, but those places are called bigoted, whatever. And then all the bishops and the priests who are toeing the line and doing what they're supposed to do, they all get canned, or they get sidelined, or they get blackballed, or they get demoted. It just happened to another, I think it was a cardinal, either cardinal or bishop from Africa, said something about homosexuality, and they just named his successor. Like, see what happens when you talk, smack about us? And it's like, he's not talking smack. He's just saying what Jesus said in the gospel. I mean, it's like everybody seems to forget that like all of the apostles got crucified except for I think one. You think John? I think every other one died a martyr's death. So I'm pretty sure that they were triggering people. You know, if you want to use modern language. You know, I'm pretty sure that St. Paul triggered people when he told them they were going to go to hell and burn in everlasting brimstone and fire, you know, poked and prodded by demons for all eternity if they refuse to see the light and the justice of God and follow in the ways of the truth. Like that's why they like, you know, they were getting stoned and beaten with sticks and spit on and killed and boiled in oil and, you know, I mean, all of this different stuff. It wasn't because they were like preaching a message of inclusion and tolerance of like all religions. That's exactly what they were not doing. They were triggering everybody. And so that's, you know, it's a mystery though. The faithful doesn't fully understand. I'm sure God's going to reveal all of it, but like even with Pope John Paul II, you know, I mean, a lot of the people that he appointed are responsible for these heinous sex crimes. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of, you know, information that's out that implies that he knew about it. And he didn't, you know, and some people say, well, he was old and, you know, his mind was failing. And you know, we don't really know. We don't know.
What can
we don't
someone
know
truly do?
Well, that's the thing is we don't know if he's like, you don't really know. You shouldn't have to have that question in your heart. You shouldn't have to be like, wait a minute, was Pope John Paul like secretly like an evil person, or is he really a saint and he was just taken advantage of by these wicked men who were climbing their ranks up in the clergy? And so it's all confused. And but even you know, Pope John Paul II specifically said, you know, like he defined human sexuality, and he said that like women can never be priests. Like he upheld that teaching, you know, and it's actually, you know, I think in some ways caused a lot of problems for them. Although he did a lot of weird stuff like with the Quran and, you know, interfaith ceremonies and stuff.
He did?
Oh yeah.
Pope John Paul?
Yeah. Yeah, you can look up the pictures. He did some where he like, I think he kissed a Quran like as a sign of solidarity or something.
Respect, maybe?
Which which he has the authority to reach out to other faiths.
It's a sign of I'm acknowledging you and everything you stand for.
Yeah,
Respectfully.
Right, but see that's the incredible thing about Pope John Paul is like it's so mystifying. It's like how could you possibly know for sure? It's like only God knows. Like obviously I hope that he really is a saint, and all of this cloud and, you know, enveloping the church, it's just, you know, Satan and his minions doing their best to deceive the faithful and get us all to be like, you know what, screw this religion. I'll love Jesus on a mountain. You know, it's like, it's a lot harder to go to church every week. It's a lot harder to go to confession. You know, our church is so beautiful and what we have is so incredible, but like we can't fully access it right now. But we can. We just have to tap into the saints, you know, because they were all alive during these kind of things. You know, I was reading St. Nicholas punched, I think Irenaeus is his name, the guy who did the Arian heresy where he said Jesus wasn't quite on the same level as God. Like he was up there, but he wasn't God, which, you know, is smacks in the face of the Trinity and screws everything up. And so St. Nicholas punched the dude in the face. And so they stripped him of his garments and his, you know, bishopric, and put him in prison. And then apparently, you know, Jesus and Mary appeared to him and gave him back his outfit and like his Bible. And then when they came in, he was like fully dressed, and they were like, okay. Like,
that's creepy, man.
I mean, he punched a heretic in the face. Like, I mean, I'm just saying, the only saint that I'm aware of that went up to a heretic and punched him in the face also had Jesus and Mary appear to him and put his holy clothes back on. I mean, it's just, that's the thing, is that, and if you read about the saints, it's terrifying because you realize how much you suck. You read about the saints and you're like, I'm such a terrible person. Like, I could be so much better. I could bring so much more peace into the world if I wasn't a selfish little, you know what I mean? And that's where the truth is at, because the truth challenges you. It doesn't give you an easy out. You know, it doesn't, it's like I was talking to another Catholic family, and they were like, I was like, oh, I got to figure out how to make some more money, and, having all these kids. And they were like, there is natural family planning.
That's what they said?
Yeah. And then, so I was like, oh, okay. And then I started to talk about it, and then all of a sudden, the husband,
That's
he goes,
all there was?
whoa, maybe this isn't the right time to talk about it. And I'm like, this is a Catholic wedding. It was our cousin's Catholic wedding. I'm like, this is a Catholic wedding. We can't talk about this here. And he was like, and I was like, okay. Because if we can't talk about it here, we can't talk about it anywhere. You know what I mean? It was pretty ironic. And it's a sad thing. It's like, by your fruits you will know them. The woman who agrees with me, who doesn't do natural family planning, she's got over 10 kids. She loves her kids. She loves her family. She loves her house. She runs her own business from home. Her husband has a good job. They're like a positive impact on Western civilization. And then the other family, they don't have any grandkids because all of their kids, they took the argument of natural family planning and they were like, well, this is bullcrap. This is just birth control. But why it's okay? Because you know what I mean?
Right.
So it actually caused a loss of faith in some of them. I mean, I'm not going to blame it solely on that. I'm not saying natural family planning is bad. If you actually read natural family planning, if you're in a severe situation, you can use it. Like you know what I mean? Like if you're not in a good place to have a kid or get pregnant.
Well, no. Plus, they have to make it somewhat of a soft boundary because they would lose all their parishioners. There is no one that can practice it the way you say is like the ultimate correct way to practice it. Yes, a lot of people maybe wish they could, but they're too weak or they're too whatever dysfunctional.
Right. Well, and that's the argument that the left will use against natural family planning is they mock it the same way they mock chastity because they're like, oh, that's ridiculous. You're just going to end up getting pregnant. And that is true for a lot of people. But really, the people who, they're not necessarily really high IQ or anything. They take the time to learn the systems that are available. I think there's like 5 methods, and it does actually work if you follow the methods.
Right, of course.
And I followed the methods before, and it worked, and then I didn't follow the methods, and
it didn't work.
It didn't work. It was all, and I realized that, you know what, I live in the richest country in the history of the world. Like, I should be having children. Even though my society is trying to punish me for having children and blaming everything on me because of the color of my skin and my supposed oppressive historical background, even though people in my personal family didn't take part in that kind of oppression, I'm still associated with it because of the color, because of the way I look. So it's my fault.
That is fucking crazy.
It's, well, dude, and the truth is, and I've talked to some, my real, like Mexican brothers and black brothers and Jesus, like they know what's up. They're not stupid. Of course. They know what's up. They got 4 kids or 6 kids, and they know this is all a bunch of crap, and they know that I have more in common with them, and they have more in common with me than anyone else, and we look totally different.
Right.
And we could sit down and have a beer together or smoke a cigar and be like best buds and totally get where each other is coming from. It's just we just get no representation. We don't exist in the collective unconscious of. And it's like I worked with a millennial guy, and he I watched him believe everything that the news was saying. I did it like as an experiment, and he'd come in and he'd be like, "Did you hear? Brett Kavanaugh raped like 16 women." And I was like, 16 women? He raped 16 women? Are you serious? How do you know this? He's like, says right here, and he's like scrolling through a BuzzFeed article or Vox. He's got it all on his phone ready to go. Just like a nonstop stream of like, oh, did you hear what Trump just said? I mean, and the guy and then his mom called him up on election day from Kansas and told him to vote all Democrat and like told him what judges to vote for and stuff. Like sent her kid like a little communist torpedo to Arizona to bask in the sunshine and enjoy the low rent and the high job opportunity. And then like, I'm voting for Kirsten Sinema, like.
I wanted to ask you about that.
Really?
Tell me, give us an update on the Kirsten Sinema.
Oh, I just stopped following it. It was so depressing.
It is depressing.
The woman is just completely, she's like Ocasio-Cortez.
What's going to happen? What's going to change?
Oh, she's just going to oppose anything that Trump does, which is funny because I think most of the people in Arizona, I think they actually support what Trump is doing. Because most people, we don't really care about, it's like the thing with the Stormy Daniels thing where they're saying it's an illegal campaign finance thing. It's like Obama did the same type of thing, only it wasn't a porn star. And the Justice Department, because Obama's Justice Department did whatever he wanted, and they just charged him a fee, and he just paid it, and then it was like it just was swept under the rug, and it was like barely mentioned in the news. But if it's Trump, they're. But the funny thing is he's been paying off women for 20 years to keep them quiet about his affairs. So they can't say that he was doing it because it was an election year, so it's technically part of his campaign expenditures, because he was doing that before he ever ran for president. It's just part of his normal business expenditures to keep up his brand and his persona. And so it's just such a stupid, ridiculous thing to watch. And then to see these people, this guy he doesn't know anything about history. He couldn't tell you the difference. But I asked him questions. Do you know about Vietnam or the Korean War or the Gulf of Tonkin incident? Do you know about D-Day? Do you know about World War One? Do you know about the Civil War? Do you know about, like it, you just keep going down the line and he doesn't know anything. But he's voting for Kirsten Sinema. And he thinks all Christians are backwards and stupid. But, the most important thing is that, two men can, validate their, sexual preference to the same as a marriage. You know what I mean? Through the forcible eyes of the state, so we can force Christian bakers to bake gay cakes for weddings. He really believes in it. Like, he really thinks he has the right to force that on me. And I'm like, how do you not see that that's totalitarian? Like, if I tried to force you to pray, you would flip out. So, like, why do you think it's okay for you to force me to, like, embrace all of these sudden random changes where, like, a guy with a big cock and balls can tell me that he's a woman named Sheila? Like, okay, if that's what you want to believe, I think you're crazy. Now, maybe you think I'm crazy because I believe that Jesus Christ is real and he died for my sins. But I guess we'll just have to agree to disagree. And they're like, no, that's hate. That's hate speech. We're going to ban you. Like, we're going to club you. Because you're a Nazi. And I'm like, National Socialist Workers Party. You're advocating socialism. You're advocating state brute force. You know what I mean? And then I said this to this kid too. It was hilarious because I heard it on some show. And I said, so let me get this straight. You want to ban the guns because they're dangerous and they're too dangerous for people. And you want to give them all to Trump. And you want only Trump to have the guns. And he was just like, he looked like Ocasio-Cortez when she opens her eyes really big. He just was like, it was like his brain short-circuited for like 5 seconds. And he was like, and he didn't know what to say. And I was like, I mean, you just said he was a Nazi, and now you also want to give him all the guns. I'm so confused right now. Like, do you really believe he's a Nazi, or do you just not know what a Nazi is, or what? Like, I don't even think he knew what he was saying.
It's almost like you pick a word, you call somebody a word because it's not even true or not, because you know that it will piss them off.
Right. But you don't even know the meaning of the word.
Right, you don't have to.
But the problem is that ruins language. It, like, simplifies culture and makes everybody retarded like that, like the movie Idiocracy.
No, the way to combat it is you got to turn around and call them by what they actually are,
Yeah, well, and the thing is they're the ones using Nazi tactics. Like, Nazi tactic, they may have believed in, racial nationalism, but okay, so that was their core belief system, but they still use the same tactics, the brute thuggery, the forcing of people to, and you can see it in an individual level in my own family. Like, I have full blown, like, socialist, probably sympathetic communist family members who live in Canada. And I'm not speaking for them, personally. I don't know all of their views, but I know that they are proud socialists. And then I have people in my family who are, like, proud of being kind of more alt-right and being, I think white people are better. And, I think, if you're stupid, you should shut the fuck up. Like, I've seen both sides of it, and I'm just like, this is not good. And it's really stupid and ridiculous because I've seen everybody sit down together at like, Christmas and have a ham and maybe argue a little bit. It's like, you know what I mean? The polarization is growing, and it's being fed on both sides, and it's really weird if you're like a not a centrist person, but like more of a positive person for humanity who just wants everybody to move towards the best good. And you know what I mean? To see both sides sort of pick at each other, it's really sad, and it's I don't know what to do about it, man. I really worry about the kids today because they're being raised by screens. They're being raised by parents who just put their kid in front of a cartoon and give them an iPad, and it's just, that is dangerous because those people are going to be voting. It's like the Ocasio-Cortez lady. Or Alexandria, I think is her first name. She's like really not that intelligent. Like almost embarrassingly so. Like she says things that are so dumb that it's just like, I can't even believe this woman is saying this right now. Like I can't. It's ridiculous. You know what I mean? She's literally delusional, but like people take her seriously. You know what I mean? Because you throw her in a suit and she throws off a couple slogans and it looks like it would sell good, but it's like there's no substance, and she's just spewing Marxist BS that she was told by a college professor, and they're all feeding off of capitalism, and they're all living off of the cultural foundations of Judeo-Christianity, and they're taking a big dump on all of it, and then they're simultaneously saying it's everything bad is the fault of these people, and they're racist. And it's just, it's so, I don't know, it's nothing short of diabolical. It's the like Our Lady of Fatima said, I think it's Our Lady of Fatima. The last great attack will be on the family. Well, it looks like that time is here.
Smoke break.